How's everyone, Nico here, and in today's video we are going to be having a look at this graphics card. So this is the Gigabyte Aorus GeForce RTX 5080 Infinity 16GB. So let's start the video. So let's start by doing an unboxing of this graphics card and seeing what you get inside of the box. So firstly, we do get a little envelope with some paperwork. Next up, we get a little Aorus sticker, and then we get the GPU support bracket thing that has two different rods that you can just interchange to have different heights. Next up, we do have the 12VH PWR power connector adapter. Then we get the magnetic backplate cover, but we'll get back to that in just a moment. And lastly, we do have the graphics card itself. So let's quickly go around this graphics card. So we can see that it has two massive fans and the backplate is cut out so the air can move throughout the heatsink. There's also a tiny fan in the middle under the mesh. The fans also has what they call Halo RGB, and there is also a line of RGB where the Infinity logo is on the side of the GPU. Then we also get a nice backplate that strengthens this graphics card. Now, getting to the thing that makes this graphics card unique is the fact that the power connector sits at the back of this graphics card, and so you can have neater builds with your wires not being seen. And this is actually where that small magnetic backplate cover comes into play, because once you plug it in, you can just place it on top and the connector is also hidden. One thing that I would have loved to see is if the magnets were a bit stronger, because they aren't that strong. If you're going to touch it slightly, it will pop off. There's also a little cutout for the power indicator LED at the back. Furthermore, this card is a 2.5 to 3 slot card with its physical dimensions being 330 by 140 by 65 millimeters, so not as big as the Master Ice. We'll get to that in just a moment. It also has one HDMI and 3 display ports, but we'll get into that in just a moment. So let's quickly then chat about the specifications of this GPU. So it's got a core clock of 2805, it's got 10,752 CUDA cores, a memory clock of 30 gigabits per second, 16 gigabyte GDDR7, 265-bit bus, and it is a PCIe Gen 5 GPU. Maximum resolution it can support is 7680 by 4320, and it has multi-view of 4, meaning you can connect 4 displays. So for the HDMI, it's HDMI 2.1B, and for the DisplayPort, it is DisplayPort 2.1B as well. And they recommend an 850 watt power supply for your system when using this GPU. So spec for spec, this is exactly the same card as the Master or the Master Ice, and therefore I'm going to compare it to the Master or the Master Ice because that is the GPU that I have. That being said, we're going to use my personal rig to test this GPU, which contains an AMD 9950X3D, 64 gigabytes of CL30 6000 mega transfers DDR5 memory, a Kingston G5 NVMe 2 terabyte, and the Gigabyte Aorus X870 Stealth Ice motherboard. Alright everyone, so let's quickly have a look at the benchmark. So I tried to keep the ambient temperature the same via aircon, and then I did 3 runs each to get an average on that. The first thing that we checked out was Time Spy Extreme, and as we can see there, we have an overall score that is slightly better on the Master Ice than in the Infinity, and from now on I'll refer to the GPUs as the Master Ice or the Infinity. Next up, we do have a Speedway, and as we can see, the Master Ice slightly outperformed the Infinity, and as well in Steel Nomad. If we look at productivity benchmark, which is the Puget Systems DaVinci Resolve benchmark, we also did a 3-run average, and as we can see, the Master Ice also performed better there. At the end of this video, I will tell you guys why I think that is. And if we go into the gaming benchmarks, I'm going to speak on the average FPS and 1% lows, but you guys have a look out at the average temperatures, the power draw, as well as the core clocks on these GPUs, and you'll see the difference, and at the end of the video, we'll have a chat about it. So as you can see on the Master Ice, it was slightly weaker than the Infinite on average FPS, so as well as 1% lows with 1440p native. If we go to 1440p DLSS quality with multi-frame gen on, we can see that the Master Ice actually then outperformed the Infinity. Okay, then in 4K native, we can see that they basically performed the same, and with DLSS on, that's also negligible, so it's also super the same, unless you look at the 1% lows where the Infinity dropped off very slightly. Then Assassin's Creed Black Flag, we can see 1440p native, it is slightly better on the Master Ice, with DLSS enabled, again very slightly better, except when it comes to the 1% lows. We kind of see seeing a pattern here. Then if we go to 4K native, we can see Master Ice slightly performing better, and then with DLSS enabled, the Infinity performed better. If we move on to Black Myth Wukong, we can see 1440p, basically the same, as well as with DLSS enabled in 1440p. Now, if we go to 4K native, we can see 31.3 on the 4K native for the Master Eyes, slightly better, but once again, super close. And again, here, the 1% lows were actually better on the Infinity, but it's very little. Now, as we can see, there's 4K DLSS, again, basically the same. Now we're moving into Forza. So with Forza, we can see that they also performed basically the same in 1440p. In 1440p, DLSS also basically the same. 4K native, basically the same, as well as with DLSS enabled. Now, before we move on to the next segment that I want to show you guys, is let's talk about the power draw as well as the temperatures of these cards. Now, as you guys can see, the Master Eyes is obliterating the Infinity when it comes to temperatures as well as power draw, and I think the reason for that is just because it has that massive heatsink. It is way larger than this. I would have actually liked to calculate the footprint this has versus that, but that's not to say that this card is crap. I wish I could have overclocked them to see how they perform. Unfortunately, I can't do overclocking for you guys because this is a media sample and it has to be sent back, and I don't want to maybe break it and have to pay it anymore. I mean, anyways, yeah, let's move on to the next one, and this is Firmark, and this is where we can see a clear picture of what's going on here. As we can see, average FPS 164 on the Infinity, and the Master Eyes gave us 166. Not a big difference, but this is where the difference comes in. Look at the GPU temperature differences there, and the VRAM temperature differences there. VRAM was 14 degrees less on the Master Eyes versus 18 degrees when we've got that Screen Cooling Plus also installed on the Master Eyes. Now, for you that don't know what the Screen Cooling Plus is, it's basically just a fan that they give for you with the Master or Master Eyes that you can put on top and plug it into your system fan headers to also help with the cooling. And as we can see there, overall the fans were louder, ramped up more on the Infinity versus the Master Eyes. And if we can look at the power draw there, we can see that the Infinity's power draw was 361 versus the 345 on the Master Eyes. Now, if we look at the one with the Screen Cooling Plus, we can see it was 363, and the reason for that is because we've got that extra fan that was plugged into the fan header, so the behavior there was a bit different. The entire machine ramped up and gave us that cooling performance that we have there. But speaking of, you guys probably want to know how loud these graphics cards get in comparison with each other. So first of all, let's do the Infinity, and then we'll do the Master Eyes, and then we're going to do the Master Eyes with the Screen Cooling Plus. Again, remembering that the entire system there is ramping up to 100. So it's all of the system fans and the GPU. So it's not just the GPU, but you guys can already tell that it's going to be way louder. So there we go, guys. That is the difference in the loudness of the GPUs. Now, obviously, it is ran at 100% fan, and you'll probably never do that, not even when gaming. It'll probably go to 80, 90-ish%, but I've never had GPUs ramp up to a full 100% during gameplay. But yeah, guys, that will give you an idea of how this GPU performs versus the Master Eyes. So if you want to build something with it, you basically know where you're going to fall. Once again, I wish I could show you guys the overclocking benchmarks, because that will also tell us a different picture maybe than what we have now. But anyways, yeah, guys, that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll check you guys out in the next one. Cheers, everyone.